But when you are searching for images, when you're going to like deep dives and looking for reference images and whatnot, it's not unusual that you'll find an image that you can't save, or like you might only be able to get hold of the thumbnail of it. Because some websites block you from being able to save images, and there's a way around it. And I have a feeling that Pinterest is one of them. So we're going to Pinterest and we'll just start looking for some stuff. Yeah, I do. I'm not buying Windows if I don't need to. It works fine as it is. But yeah, so let's try this image here and then see. Oh, we can open the image. Oh, there we go. Yeah, so we can open the image up in the new tab and save it like that. But it's fairly common that you find that you can't save you can't save an image. This happens to me kind of, maybe 2 times out of 10, depending on where I'm looking. So what you can do is you do control.
The Fifth Element.
Yeah, yeah, the Fifth Element is based on Valerian, which is a French comic book from the early 70s, I think, or bande dessinée to give it its proper term. Bande dessinée literally translates into drawn strip, because the French have a very different sense of comic book culture than what you have in Canada and the US and the UK as well, actually. And a lot of science fiction from the 80s and the 90s, well, the 70s, 80s, and 90s was all based on these French comic book strips. So yeah, the Fifth Element was based on Valerian, which was about 1971, I think it came out. Pretty much all of the world building and the design from Star Wars, that all came from these French comic book designers. Blade Runner as well was heavily influenced by this stuff. So if you're into cyberpunk and you're into heavy metal and comic books and whatnot, look into the French origins of it because that's where you'll find it from. All right, so let's see if I can pull this off. We do Control U, and that brings up the HTML coding. And then I always hit line wrap there. So this stops everything from scrolling over to the right. And this gives you all of the links. And this is all of the HTML code that this is based on. Sometimes it's a lot, sometimes it's not so much. And basically, what you're looking for is usually one of these blue links, but it will end in .jpeg. So sometimes you've just got to kind of sit back and just kind of scan your eyes over it, because all of this stuff here, there's usually a lot of JS, which is JavaScript. So if we click on these links here, this will just take us into another page. It's a load of nothing. It's no use to us. But then you just have to scroll down and you just keep going.
Okay.
Where did you see PNG? Because that may well be it, or it will be some kind of. This is as high as it goes. I'm at the top of the page here. Oh yeah, you're. Oh yeah, yeah. So there's HTML. So if we search
There's
that,
two
oh no,
PNGs
that's
actually.
yeah, that's the yeah. You'll get loads of logos. Anything that's got yeah, see like this pin IMG web app fab icon.
Saying there's two of them. He just went over the second one.
I think all of these are going to be the logos or the icons, because anything that's got like social media links, stuff like this. So if we check anywhere where you see a fab icon, that will be an icon like this. So that's not what we're looking for. Sometimes it's not written as a link. You have to try and identify the bit of HTTP code. Yeah. Sometimes when you see the perfect photo and you just can't find it. Oh, very possibly you can do actually. Yeah. So do Control F and just search for
JPEG.
PNG, blah blah blah. That's not, yeah, that's not made life any easier for us, I don't think. So if we go back to the main bit of code, and then sometimes you've just got to keep scrolling down and just keep scanning your eyes over it until you spot it. This is a difficult one. Like this
Yeah.
is a way heavy bit of code. But sometimes if you just scroll down past all of this junk here, you'll eventually get to a different. Here we go. You see, like the code changes. Here we are. Here we are. HTTP pinimage.com. It's a JPEG. That's the thumbnail, so that's a smaller resolution bit of the image. And then we've got this one up here. See what that is. There you go. There's your higher resolution image, and then you can just go to save image as. Boom. So if the image exists on the web page as a high resolution image, that means it has to be embedded in the page somewhere. If you can see it, it exists. And the way to find it is you just do Control U, and then you just scroll through this stuff until you see the blue HTTP link that ends in some kind of image suffix, either a JPEG or a PNG, typically. And then it's just a matter of clicking through them until you find the high resolution image. So that's a
Cool.
handy little.
That's a
That's a
handy tip.
handy. Yeah, it's a cool thing to know about because I used to use it all the time in interior design because we were forever getting clients sending us links to like usually fabric manufacturers or like floorboard manufacturers or this kind of thing, and very often they would show you the image of like the product that they were selling, you know, like a certain type of canvas or usually it's like a fabric that you can have like upholstery on your sofa or whatever, and it wouldn't let you save the image out, and then you had to do the Control U thing and then find it. But here we are on Artstation,
Yeah, so real
and
quick,
Art.
I'm just gonna just 2 seconds. I've linked Artstation to everybody here in the chat. If some of you, or not most of you, have already mentioned or told you about Artstation briefly. Those of you currently in the 220 section of your course, on Wednesday you're starting a module. The module right after that, having an Artstation account will be an assignment. So you could sign up and start uploading stuff to it now, and you're done. One of your assignments already. And you're basically getting like pro advice right now. Take it away, James.
All right, so Artstation is significant because if you ain't got an Artstation, you ain't got a portfolio. That's basically how that works. It used to be when I was first starting
It's
that
like if
in
you
order
don't
to
have
have an online,
Facebook, you don't know science. Is that how that works?
yeah, essentially, yeah. If you don't have if you're not on social media, you don't exist.
Yeah.
And you probably notice like the significance of things like social media, that if you have a brand or a product, if you're an online streamer, then you've got to have Instagram, you've got to have Rumble, you've got to have BitChute, whatever the hell these things are. Like the further and wider you spread yourself, you know, the more likely people are to find you. Same thing with having a LinkedIn account. Lots of recruiters and lots of companies, they will be looking at your LinkedIn account because that's where you keep like your professional information, and on there you would link to your Artstation. The more places you can put a link to your portfolio and your work, you know, the more likely people are to find it. But Artstation is the number one-stop place to go for computer artists like us. Sketchfab's also very useful because Sketchfab is very good for being able to actually display your models in 3D and be able to show off things like the wireframes and the texture breakdowns. Because one thing employers do like to see visually is they like to see breakdowns of your work. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit. Artstation as an actual place to look for jobs. If we go on here and we go to the find a job section. Oops.
You can do it, James. Come on.
Yeah, there we go. There we go. We got to find a job. Personally, I think this is bullshit because the jobs that they list on here tend to be very, very high status jobs. Like you have to be hardcore elite.
Like
I mean,
lead
I've been
environment artist
doing
for 2K games. Yeah.
yes. So much of the stuff. See, it's lead, it's principal, senior, VFX artist, lead again, concept lead animator,
One of
blah
those
blah blah.
things where you
Character
need
art,
6 years experience in an app that's only been around for 4 years.
that kind of thing. Yeah, character art director, technical art director. They're all really high status jobs for people who've been in the industry for like 10 years
You
and
laugh,
this kind of
Jake.
thing.
That's an
So
incredibly common thing in this industry. People looking for people with experience with, like, say, Substance Painter. They want 10 years experience as Substance Painter, and the program's like 5 years old. It happens. It's all over the place.
I've been seeing that all over the
Yeah.
place, and I laugh
Yeah,
every
the
time.
it's hard to find job listings for stuff that is appropriate to kind of junior level or graduate level people. It's just the nature of the. I think it's because it's a people with experience are in much higher demand, but also people who get into like the higher echelons of a company. It's difficult to keep them around. You know, usually juniors and people first starting out, like any job they can get hold of, like they're going to grab hold of it and stay there. But once people know their worth, once people are in demand, then it's difficult to keep them in a job role because it's like, hey, if you ain't going to pay me enough, I'm going to go to this other company, or I don't like this project, it's boring, I'm just going to jump ship and go somewhere else, or I don't like the people I'm working with, screw you guys, I'm going somewhere else. You know, people are as loyal as their options, and once you know that about people, you know, it's kind of not the same world anymore. But yeah, looking through here, it's just so many things about. Well, we've got an intermediate artist here. Let's see what they.
Skybox Artist, London, Ontario. An
Oh yes,
intermediate
that's yeah.
intermediate.
How far is London from you? Like 50 miles?
Someone here is probably in London,
Okay, yeah. So
but as how
it's not
far?
that
I
far
mean,
away.
from me it's 2 hours. From Justin it's 2 hours. From anyone in, for most of us, it's 2 to 4 hours. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Southern Ontario is generally a pretty good place in terms of games development. There's a fair bit going on around there. Obviously, Toronto is like a major center. I suppose like Montreal. How far away is Montreal? That's like a
6.
good day's.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say that's the best part of a day's drive. Montreal is a big place for
Do
games
watch
development as
out
well.
for smaller studios too, though, because sometimes they
Hmm.
like post jobs that sound like really good, and then they don't pay you. So watch out for that
Yeah,
too.
yeah. I'll talk a little bit about like, my experiences in like indie games development versus studio games development. But let's see what kind of stuff they're asking for. Blah blah blah. Responsibilities. Utilize your traditional art skills. Traditional art. So they want somebody who can draw, somebody who has. I mean, that doesn't mean like pen and paper skills per se. That's more like Photoshop and you know, magnetic drawing tablet, Photoshop Illustrator, that kind of stuff. Knowledge of the latest DCC applications. What the hell's a DCC application? I don't even know what that means. Somebody may have to Google that. Bring the game's visual design into game-ready art, handling, modeling, texturing, UV mapping with guidance from lead artists and art directors. That basically means they tell you what to do and you fill out the, like you don't really get much creative control. It will already be like decided for you. Contribute innovative and original ideas towards the game's visual identity and development. Okay, so you do get to do a little bit of your own work. But those two things there, like
DCC is Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders. I can't figure out what DCC is.
You see, like this straight away, this flow throws up a little bit of a red flag, like guidance from lead artists and directors and contribute innovative ideas. It's like you can't really do both.
It's digital content creation.
Yeah, we saw that. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you,
Why
Sheldon.
work at Digital Extremes? Yeah, the reward of the career, the competitive salary. They all say that excellent benefits and paid time off, pretty standard, matching RRSP
If the
plan.
salary was
I
so
don't know.
competitive, they would post it. They wouldn't just say it was competitive salary. That's another like
The
small
joke
red
is
flag.
competitive with your bills.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The paycheck competes with your debt. Will you have any of it left?
I mean, in general, I mean, competitive to me means like competitive to the marketplace, which means they will try and give you a decent rate compared to what other companies will be offering. So they won't absolutely rip you off.
Yeah, in my
And yeah, I can tell.
experience, though, if they won't actually post with the wages on the listing and they put things like competitive salary, it's because it in fact actually isn't. If it was truly a
Yeah.
competitive salary, they would, like, if they really wanted people to reply to this listing with a for a job that had a high paying salary, they'd put the number.
Yeah.
So
It's not unusual as well. I think the most common thing I see is that it will give you the salary range. And it'll be like $24,000 to $40,000, dependent on experience. And
yeah.
it's like, yeah, where do you think your experience comes in within that scale? It's like you're going to end up getting the lower end of that. So most of what they've said here to do with work-life balance, fitness subsidies. That just means they might have like a gym on site or something like that. Professional development and career support. That usually means that like once a month or so, they'll kind of take you into a meeting room and they'll say, "How do you think you're progressing at this company, and what skills would you like to focus on?" And this sort of thing. We have that at Double 11. We have the personal development program, which is it's encouraged, but it's entirely voluntary. And it does to a degree come down to how much of a shit the lead artist gives. One thing that I find kind of irksome or a little bit annoying is the lead artist that I have on my current project. I don't actually like him that much. I think he's a bit of a jock, and he doesn't really give a shit about the personal development
He's a bit of a
programs.
what?
He's a bit of a jock.
A
He's
jerk?
a jock. He's you can do, he's well in the
Spell
American
it.
sense, Jock.
What is that?
Jock.
Like he's an athlete?
Jock,
Like he likes
On
football?
the football team.
kind of. He's got that same sort of mentality.
What does
Like, he's
jock
very-
mean to you?
What does jock mean to me? I mean it in like the stereotype American sense.
Okay,
of the
okay.
term.
I wasn't sure.
Yeah, he's
I mean, because he
Yeah,
works in
he's,
video games, and the word jock just did not, like, what he plays
Yeah,
ping
it kind
pong. That's a jock to me. Anyways, carry on. Sorry.
it's it doesn't quite gel with the the career path, but he's very obviously an alpha personality. I don't think he gives a shit about anybody but himself. He's got a kind of he has that don't do as I do, do as I say type of
Oh,
mentality.
I'm like that.
Yeah, he's that kind of person. And so the like when you sit down with him, you talk about like your personal development plans. With him, it mostly just goes in through one ear and out the other. Like he's not paying attention to what you're actually interested in, and you're pretty much on your own. He'll just kind of like do the meetings with you once a month. I mean, luckily for me, I'm more than capable of doing my own personal development plans, and I'm very good at helping and supporting other people with them. He's just not. He's got he's a very solipsistic and self-centered personality. But anyway, that's what that professional development and career support means. It means that they'll ask you kind of what skills do you want to learn, and they'll help you out with it, etc. Oh, here we go. Skills and requirements. 1+ years of previous experience in the industry.
That's not
1+
bad.
years. That is not a lot. Normally, it's like 3 to 5 at least. That's not a
That's
whole lot.
basically like their college program would count for that, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, so a portfolio that demonstrates excellent modeling and strong understanding. They always use words like excellent and strong and substantial and stuff. It doesn't necessarily mean that. It just means that you have to have good evidence in your portfolio. Environment texturing workflows, i.e. PBR, which is physically based rendering, that's standard. There aren't many games now that don't use PBR. Designer, so that's Substance Designer, so they would like you to know Substance Designer. Tiling, trim, and hybrid trim textures and similar. Do you do trim textures on the
A little
course?
bit. We do a lot of the substance designer stuff though. Substance painter mainly.
Yeah, so trim texturing, I notice that turns up a lot now. We do that a lot in Prison Architect 2. And it basically means a trim texture is basically where you have almost like an atlas texture where it's not a UV map texture that is unique to the model. It's the texture itself is just like a collection of bits and pieces and elements. And then you would UV map the model onto this texture. The idea being so you can build environments that all share the same textures. So things like you'd have a building which would have like a door and a section of brick and a little bit of concrete trim and a windowsill and a window frame. And
Yeah, we do something a little bit like that
Yeah.
with our 3ds Max module. I think this is the thing that Mike's been bugging me about adding to one of the modules, using Photoshop to make one kind of thing.
Yeah, let's have a look at a trim texture tutorial. So it's let's see, that there is a fairly good example of the well, if we could actually get a decent texture to load. Maybe that's not so ideal. Let's take a little bit of a further look. Yeah, I suppose something like this. This is a trim sheet texture because it's not a complete wall texture. The idea being that it's all made up of like panels and subsections, and then you would UV map your model onto different sections of this,
We had
so you
this
can
one.
mix.
We had this one on one module, the texture and the tiling and texturing.
Yeah.
It was the newest one that we were the first one to make
No,
it.
it's a different technique than that. This is closer to. Do you remember your 3ds Max module where I give you the texture with the brick and you got the banner on it and stuff? That's a little bit more like that, but more complex because they make this texture in Substance Painter or whatnot, and there'll be included bump maps and UV maps and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, see, something like this is a trim sheet texture. There's lots of little bits and pieces and elements, and then you can share these out across various different models. And so you could build an entire corridor out of just these parts here.
I actually put Remy
so
through this, actually, because he did a module, like 2 weeks he was done his module. So I gave him a bunch of YouTube videos on how to do this technique.
Okay,
and
so,
he never
so
talked, he hasn't talked to
close.
me since.
No, I was so close, but I overdid the poly count when I was going into 3ds Max, and it didn't like going into Substance after that.
Yeah, and that is probably how come they've got this here, a solid ability to optimize your models, because you'd be amazed at just how, especially when developing for consoles. I mean, you kind of get used to it with developing stuff for PC, that you can just go nuts with your texture resolutions and your polygon counts and this kind of thing. When you're actually porting stuff over to console, then all of a sudden you've got to get the game to look the same, but with like a 65% reduction in resolutions and polygon counts. Like, you really have to ruthlessly cut out every polygon that doesn't need to be there. Yeah, being able to optimize models, being able to do a lot with as little as possible is definitely an important skill that's very widely demanded. Exemplary written and verbal communication skills, I kind of cast doubt over that, because given the now global nature of the industry, you'll probably be working with lots of people who don't have English as a first language. Like, half the people I work with don't have English as a first language. So obviously their written and verbal communication skills are pretty hit and miss, but they still got the job and they still work with us. So yeah, I tend to take that as I mean, if you can speak English, you're fine. Basically, that's what that means. The most of the people I work with as well, their written and verbal communication skills are, passable, even if they're, as English as anybody else's. And then modeling with Max Maya Blender, sculpting with ZBrush, and texturing with Painter and Designer. That's all pretty standard stuff. I tend to find Max and Maya have a 50-50 split of the industry, and so it kind of depends
Really?
on the project.
I would have thought it was
Yeah.
mostly Maya.
No, actually, I don't. If one or the other does have a dominance, I think it's kind of coincidental. For Prison Architect, we're technically supposed to be using Maya. I think everybody uses Maya. I'm just one of the few people that can use either. I mean, with me, I tend to use Max for all my modeling, and I use Maya for my rigging and animating stuff. Although I am supposed to be moving over and learning Maya more.
That's probably the exact workflow I would take. I'd probably do all my modeling in Max, and then I would give it to Mike to finish in Maya.
Yeah, so I always tell people that when you're first learning, like, pick your favorite, because learning Max and Maya simultaneously to learn modeling, it's a bit much. It's a little bit too much to take in, considering all of the other programs that you need to be working with. So I always say pick your favorite and then learn your modeling skills with that, and then adapt out to the other one as projects or workplaces demand.
Would it be common?
Blender
Would it be common to have the ZBrush is the one that stands out to me here, because like to me ZBrush is another skill set above Maya and Max altogether.
Yeah, it is an entirely separate thing. I mean, ZBrush is kind of useless on its own. It doesn't have a whole lot of value outside of being combined with other programs. But yeah, ZBrush tends to turn up all the time. So certainly, it's definitely less essential than Max and Maya, but certainly being fluent in it, being able to open up ZBrush and just knowing what you're doing with it is an important thing, because we use ZBrush in Prison Architect 2, but only kind of on the odd occasions where we actually need it. It doesn't come up a whole lot, and so I'm not particularly fluent with ZBrush. I'm not that good with it. I know how it works and I know how to use it, but I'm like a two-star sculptor with it. I know enough to get by, and that's enough. Blender is a strange one, because for a long time Blender was just a student tool, and it was kind of a fairly mediocre modeling tool. It was nowhere near as good as Max and Maya, and it was never going to be, but it's come a long way in the last couple of years. And it is actually possible that if you don't know Max or Maya and you only know Blender, then you can actually get jobs that require you to that would normally require you to use Max and Maya. We've had a couple of people at Double 11 like that who don't know either Max or Maya, they just know Blender, and they've been accepted, because at the end of the day, all you're doing is exporting a model out as an FBX file, and that's enough. It's really just a case of the work sharing. In Prison Architect 2, we archive everything that we make, and they like it to all be in Maya format. So if somebody else needs to take over your work from you, or if you leave the team, or somebody else you get replaced by somebody else, they don't want all of your work to be in some format that person can't access. And then finally, texturing with Painter and Designer. Painter is essential because everything is done with Painter now. Photoshop is still surprisingly relevant, but almost everything will be done with Substance Painter. This is why I normally say it rarely ever mentions Photoshop, but Photoshop does come up all the time. I mean, we use it like
I think at this point it's kind of probably almost assumed, just like you know how to write an email and use Word.
Possibly, yeah. I mean, even on projects or games that don't even use Photoshop, it comes up all the time that we have to repair things in Photoshop, or we have to change image formats inside Photoshop. It always comes up with something. It's always in the background. It's just used less and less for texturing. I mean, God, half of Prison Architect 2 is textured with Photoshop. Surprisingly enough, it uses a mixture of Painter and Designer and Photoshop. Actually, in fact, it may even be split in thirds, and for how commonly we use them. Designer is always very much in the background. Designer's almost more of a technical artist tool than it is an artist tool. I generally say it's kind of like ZBrush in that you should be familiar with Designer. You just don't have to use it for everything. You only use it when it's necessary to use it. So as long as you can open it up and you get how it works and you know what to do with it, because I can't build stuff from scratch with Designer. I suck with it, but I can take existing Substance Designer files and I can modify them and tweak them as is necessary. And then preferred extras, traditional art background, or applied experience. I'm not really sure how you quantify applied experience, but and it's kind of weird as well that if they want you to have traditional art background, but none of these software they listed are traditional art background softwares, because this is all 3D stuff.
What was the position title again?
This was intermediary. Yeah, intermediate environment artist. Yeah. I don't. Yeah. Why would you need traditional environment skills as an environment? As an environment artist, it kind of sounds like they want you to be doing your own concepts for it or something, which is possible. Maybe it is, but typically concept artistry is in an entirely separate discipline. So all the concept art is done by a concept artist, and then as an artist, you just recreate it in 3D.
Warframe. That's strong composition. Free Steam game, isn't it?
Warframe, yeah, I think it is.
Free on Steam, PlayStation, Xbox, and Nintendo Switch.
That's pretty widely distributed, then.
Yeah, it's not a new game. It's an online competitive style, kind of like a top-down shooter, I believe.
No, it's first-person shooter.
Third-person shooter.
Third person. It's co-op and PvP. Yeah, I played it for almost a decade, and I quit because it got so boring after.
Do you want to go work on it now?
No.
She's still in school. She's already picky about her. Nah, I'll pass. Good job.
Alrighty, so I mean that gives you a basic rundown of because once you've read one job position like this, you've kind of read them all. You go through them, you'll see that they always demand the same kind of things. They always offer the same kinds of company benefits and what kind of thing. Really, you just need to look in the skills and requirements and just see what's there, and take a look at how many years of experience they like and how well do you match up to the how will you match up to the preferred extras and whatnot? Because some of the preferred extras could be what swing it for you in. They could be what swing it for you in terms of passing the interview. To go and look at a couple of portfolios to see what's actually out there, because the vast
Wait, I had
amount
a
of stuff.
question, if you don't mind.
Hmm.
So I noticed like there are some jobs for game testing, right? And I see the requirements, and a lot of them require you to, for example, have experience with or working in the game industry for this long and stuff. And yeah, I'm just wondering, is that normal?
No, actually, because the testers that we have at Double 11, you're not required to have any game development knowledge as a tester. It doesn't actually factor into it. Most of the testers that I've worked with, they have never touched a game's engine. They don't have any 3D modeling skills or that kind of thing. They've literally never done that stuff. They just do testing. Because the main skill you need to have in testing is it's all to do with it's organizational skills. It's all to do with logging bugs. And they don't just kind of like turn you loose in a game and just be like, see what you find and just write it up if you think something is wrong. The testing tends to move in cycles. So you will be given, you'll get given like a current build of the game, and then you'll be told kind of what to look for. Like you might be testing the user interface, or testing the environment, or testing the AI pathing system, or this kind of thing, and you just have to find anything that's wrong with it. And then once you've got like a good library of bugs built up, you have to assign the bugs out to people who will appropriately tackle them to fix them. They get that stuff wrong all the time. I'm forever getting given code bugs. One odd thing I find with testers is they're not normally all that good at identifying or being able to diagnose what a bug is, whether it's an art-related bug or a code-related bug or an AI-related bug or this kind of thing. They get that stuff wrong all the time, and so we end up having to like reassign bugs out ourselves if they get given to the wrong person. But it's mainly just a case of find the bug, identify it, see what steps there are necessary to reproduce it, say what the severity of the bug is, and then it goes into the system, and then it will be handed out to a person, and then they have to fix it, and then they mark it as being done, and then it will go back around to the tester, and the tester then has to test again to see has the bug been fixed or not. And very often what happens is they don't get an up-to-date version of the build, and they mark the bug as not being fixed when it has been fixed. They're just not testing on the version of the game under which it has been fixed. This is my experience of testing. So no, I don't ever see testers as requiring to have game development knowledge.
So there is a new thing of now there's game testing companies. That's all they do is test games. They no longer like, because some studios are getting so small, and with the popularity of mobile games, and like it's possible for somebody to just produce a mobile game every week. You can hire an outside third-party game testing company to do the testing for you. Maybe that was what you were seeing, Bree.
Yeah, I think as well, because that kind of work can be done remotely. So you get little companies like that all over the place, where they literally just outsource the testing to other companies. If you ever look at people like Rockstar and Ubisoft, and you think, how can you have like a studio in every major city in the country, and you still only make one game every 6 years? Like, how is that even possible?
Ubisoft makes a hell of a lot more than one game a year, dude.
Oh, they do?
They make over 100 games a year.
No shit.
Ubisoft is the mass producer of video games. Their number one title. Do you know their number one title? It shocked me when I heard.
No, I actually have no idea.
It's the Just Dance series. Those silly little dancing games they sell for $20 that they sell out every year is their number one selling game. It beats Assassin's Creed.
Wow.
when it comes to game show IPs, Ubisoft owns them all. So all of the Wheel of Fortunes, the Price is Rights, the Jeopardies you see, all Ubisoft. Oh no, Ubisoft is not a one game a year company.
Okay.
In fact, if
I mean,
anything, they're producing like 90% bloat and shovelware, and then the rest is Far Cry and Assassin's Creed.
Yeah. Yeah, if you ever wondered what all those kind of like Ubisoft Shanghai and Ubisoft Mumbai and Ubisoft Bogota and all these kind of satellite studios, but half of those are probably just for testing or just for doing the multiplayer element or just for doing the marketing and this kind of thing. That's why they have all these satellite studios. But so portfolios, most of ArtStation, like I was saying, is very, very elite. Like so much of the stuff on this is crazy, crazy good. And I think as well, like people pay like the professional they pay like the professional subscription to get their stuff on the front page up as high as it will go. So scrolling through it, it often seems like it's a monumental mountain to climb to get to the same skill level that a lot of these people have. Bear in mind, a lot of these people, they've been working in the industry for 10, 15 years plus, or they might just be, very, very good where literally all they do is just crack this stuff out all day long. So we'll take a look at my portfolio.
Yeah, I throw your portfolio around like every few weeks. So I throw it up again.
I think I started building this portfolio in 2015.
And it hasn't changed since 2015.
Actually, it's a couple of years since I've updated this, but this is the stuff I have on my portfolio, and this is like a 4-star portfolio because it's generally well curated and it's generally good stuff. It's a bit of a mishmash because obviously there's stuff from when I was working in architecture and interior design built into here, and then there's kind of like my mid-era stuff when I was still working in architecture. I just wasn't doing any game development stuff, and then toward the like the top row is more my game development stuff. So I've got like a whole bunch of stuff spread across 10 years or so. Dotted around in here.
So I was just the other day, actually, I was just Friday, I was showing Jason your portfolio and your first Terminator there with the animation. I had told him you did the animation in Max, but earlier today you just said you do most of your like animation and stuff in Maya. So did you model this Terminator in Max and animate him in Maya?
I think technically both. The Terminator was built in Max, and I didn't rig the original version of it. I had somebody else did that, and so the first animated versions of it were done in Max, and then we re-rigged it in Maya, and so the later animations were done in Maya. I can't remember which one this was.
Based on his movement, I feel like it's Max.
Good question. Yeah, because the Maya rig worked better, and we got a slightly smoother, and we got a slightly more natural kind of flow of motion coming off of the. Oh yeah, you see, software use Maya, so this is a Maya animation.
Okay.
Yeah, the problems. Oh yeah, you can tell because this one has the cables coming on the shoulder and coming off the neck. We couldn't get that to work in Max. That was the problem we had with it, and that's how come we ended up. We ended up re-rigging it in Maya. And I think as well the hands worked better. I think in general the Maya rig was just more complex, and it allowed us to have a slightly greater range of motion. And also because Maya is just Maya is a better animating tool, so it was just easier to iterate the animation, easier to get smoother results with it. So yeah, that's a Max model with a Maya rig and a Maya animation is how that was done. And then I've got various weapon models that I've done. This is me playing as being a photographer. One thing I think is very important to learn as an artist is photography skills. You don't have to be a photographer, like you don't actually have to go out and get a camera. I mean, everybody has a decent digital camera on their phone as it is. But I found the years that I worked in architecture, it taught me a lot about how to present work. And this is something that I think the games developers or games artists have always kind of been a step behind with, not quite as good. It's knowing how to frame a shot. Things like using depth of field is not that hard, but knowing how to limit your color palette, like this is basically two colors. This is borderline monochrome. But the way I have used the depth of field, so it focuses on something particular, something up front, and then the depth of field blurs out very, very quickly. But things like the text, I've made sure to keep that kind of clear and in focus. Likewise, the image itself has been cropped to fit within inside the frame. One really valuable technique I will mention is don't try and fit the camera angle into or don't try and fit the camera angle around the model. Fit the model within the camera angle. This is something we do inside of. So actually, do you have Marmoset as part of the course
No, it's
software?
another one of those things Mike's been bugging me to get going.
Yeah, because I think he said that or the last time I spoke to Mike, he was saying that it's not actually on the licenses are not actually part of the budget yet. But Marmoset is like the standard tool for taking all of the renders for your portfolio. It's the same for pretty much everybody. Let me think of other stuff. Where have I framed images well? If I go back, I think if I go back a few stages, like if I start looking at the vehicle models, this is a good example of a texture that was done in Photoshop, and it's a good quality model. But the photography I did on it is not that good, mainly because here I've done it against a solid black background. That's usually not a good idea. You don't want to just have your model floating in nothingness. It should have some kind of background image. Again, look at the way photographers do like portrait shots or like portrait or like photographs of like actors and models and stuff. Actually, maybe if we go back to we're going to look at Pinterest, and we'll see if we can see any photographs of. Because I suppose some of this stuff here is just done against like a plain. I mean, this is more of like a cream off-white background rather than just like a solid white or solid black. Even just doing something simple like a gradient, where you just have like a dark gray to a dark blue gradient across the back. Just something as simple as that can help you out. I think if I click on a model, and then we'll just see. But yeah, or just having like a sort of a blurred
That
generic
personal
background.
practice, that Zhang Yang right there, even with the pure white background, is still a decent example because they applied shadows underneath their feet at least, which really
Yeah, and
helps.
or just because Marmoset has a shadow caster feature where basically all it does is just add like a transparent shadow patch to the ground, and that does a lot to help ground the characters. If I go and look one up, actually, I think if I go for my general, it's not a brilliant piece of work, but it's pretty good. Let me just move. This thing's always in the way wherever I put it. I think if we go into human resistance, yeah, here we go. Oh, come on, really? I haven't got the screenshots of it in here. But where did I keep those screenshots? I don't see them unless did I keep them in here? Oh, actually, yeah, I think maybe I'm keeping them in here. Yeah, here we go. This was a character model that I did a few years back, and so yeah, literally what I did was I just took this kind of smoky background with the spotlights. Those are not actual lights. That's literally just a JPEG image that was put in behind him. And then if we scroll down, how well can we see the feet? Let me put that there. Yeah, you can see how it actually looks as though it's standing on like a ground, and you can see the shadows and stuff coming off his feet. And then it looks as though there's like a smoky background. That's literally all just a JPEG. He's not actually standing on a surface. It's all completely faked. It was all done in the viewport inside the marmoset, but it was a happy accident really that I just happened to get the right combination of a background and the right combination of a shadow catcher on the feet that it made it look like he's standing inside a studio against a studio backdrop. So that was a handy example of that. If we look at, let's see, photographers backdrop, see what we can find. Yeah, you see, I think this is what I was searching. And I was just looking, yeah, just images like this. It's something that you can put your model against and you can blur it out. And it just helps to ground. Yeah, this is how photographers work. They often have like a little stand like this with just a simple sheet, and it's designed to blur out the line where the floor meets the wall, and then the background itself is just sort of a generic monotone patchy whatever it is. So do use the same kind of technique when you're photographing your subject, as it would probably. Yeah, you see, like this is how photographers often work. They only have your subject set in front of a backdrop like this. Oh yeah. Here's another one you see where you've got like a big spotlight, and it's just something to frame the shot in. So a little bit of studying into photographic techniques is I think is always a very good idea. And you see, like, as well, that I've put depth of field on here. Depth of field just doesn't contrast well against like a solid empty background. Wasn't a particularly good idea. And then I just ran through a whole bunch of different kind of shots and angles, but what I've done on each one of these is I'm being a gamer, or I'm being a games developer, and I'm showing the model. I'm not showing the subject. That's two different things. There is a certain technique and a certain way of photographing cars. And you see it, like I've got a mismatched one in here where you can see I've changed the HDRI image, and so it's darker. There's more green to it. The reflections in the window have changed, and then it kind of goes back to a different one. And then I go into like black and white, and I've taken way too many pictures. It's just the same thing over and over again, and I haven't shown my textures or my polygonal breakdowns or any of that kind of stuff. So it's a good model and a good texture, but it's badly displayed. If I look at see car photography, and let's see what kind of I mean, a lot of these are easy. Like this is how you display the subject of a car, where you pick an angle and you kind of display it. Yeah, see, like this is another one where you get these that's been, because it's not even fully in the shot, but you've got this reflective shiny background on the bottom quarter. Then you have the subject of the car in like the second quarter, and it's shifted slightly out of frame, and you've only got a little bit of damp lighting on the front here. Then you've basically got nothing in the middle in the third quarter, and then you've got the roof with the subject light on the top quarter there. This is an example of how something like cars are photographed, and you tend to notice you see the same angles over and over again. Like there are no side profile angles of the car. You always get these you always either get these kind of front angles like this looking directly on,
or a
you
Dutch
get
angle.
these yeah, you get kind of like these driving action angles where it's meant to be in motion or in process. I mean, you can say 8 tips for stunning car photography. You can look into something like that. I suppose that's not a bad one there, but look how much extra background there is, and the way you've got all these kind of horizontal and vertical lines. You've got a dead vertical line across there, then you've got this horizontal line across here, then a big vertical column here, then vertical strip lights across here. It's all angular lines. The way they've done the backdrop, and then obviously in stuff like this, like they'll pick a particular feature of the car where this is literally taking up what 2/3 of the image there. There's not really a lot going off in the background, but it's very distinctly blurred out, and you're just kind of capturing these almost kind of abstract curves of the way the lines of the model flow. And then yeah, like you always get these kind of big front angles like this that sort of because you're getting kind of two angles. You're getting the 3-dimensional depth of the object, which is what I've got here. It's just that it's completely absent and removed from the background. But I don't have any kind of low angle shots. I suppose I've kind of got that one there, but I haven't picked up on anything like the front grille here. There's lots of detail going on in here. There's the manifold exhaust up on here. I haven't taken advantage of like the natural beauty and the natural curves and the natural shapes of the model. I've just kind of taken the same 3 angles over and over again in like a variety of different light settings. So that is why that is not a particularly good example. Whereas if we fast forward and go back to this one, you see I've cropped the image inside, like it's not even, I haven't even photographed the whole thing, but I've used depth of field against a blurred out background to try and pick up on particular contours and particular regions of the model. Then I've done the same thing opposite around here, kind of focusing on the focusing on the markings on the side. Then I do a profile angle, then an angular profile angle, and then blah, 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 blah. I suppose that's still not a fantastic example of it. But then I think probably the best example, and these are the best renders I've ever done in my life when I did the Terminator. Like I picked this back angle here to show the detail in the back of the head and the neck. And then I got this one here that was like a side angle from the abdomen and the pelvis. And then that one there was to do like the femur bone and to get the hand inside the shot. And then we got like a front shoulder and cropped angle, just enough to get the teeth in shot, but to keep the eyes out of shot. And then like a rear angles of both like the torso and then like the lower spine. So I kept kind of moving the camera around and looking for these different regions and cropping them down and then blurring out the background. Same thing with like all the smoke effects and what that I put on this. This was literally just two different things blended together. I literally just went and found like laser line background. Yeah, let's see what we find. Laser line background. I basically improvised my own photography. Yeah, see, this was just the stuff that I found. I just went and found these kind of lines, and I found one that paired up and matched well with the angle of the photograph that I was taking. And then I just photoshopped some smoke on over the top of it, blurred it out a little bit. And these were the end results that I got. This was actually done in V-Ray, not in Marmoset, but you can accomplish the same thing. So you can even Photoshop up your own photography backdrops to give the fake impression of like depth to the image and to give the impression of like light coming in from different angles. Because obviously when you're rendering with Marmoset, you're working with actual physical light, but the physical light won't actually affect the background. So I just faked it by mushing the two together, and these were the end results. And I ended up with some of the best renders I've ever done. So that is how that was accomplished. Actually, so let's go and take a look at George. George is my student. George, let's see if we can find him. I think this is in here. Yeah, here he is. See, placement environment artist at 11. We go inside here. This is George's portfolio. So this, from a beginner perspective, this portfolio was good enough to get him a job. Like he got a job. Well, he's not even finished university actually. So he's only 20, I think. So this is a good portfolio for a guy as young as he is. And yeah, I saw this portfolio and I thought, yeah, this is one of the best student portfolios that I've seen, because he's only got 6 pieces. 6 pieces ain't a lot. And for a long time, I mean, one of the basic pieces of advice you get given is that you can get hired off the back of having one good piece in your portfolio. And I never believed this when I heard it. I thought, nah, surely you've got to have like a decent array. You've got to show like your versatility and your previous experience. It's like, nope, you can have a portfolio that's like 9 pieces of crap and one really good quality piece, and it will get you hired. It does happen. I've worked with students that it's happened to before. So looking a little bit closer at George's work, so he's got 2 prop pieces, he's got a creature feature, 2 environmental pieces, and then an interior piece. And I think in the assessment that I gave him, I said that his living room recreation, I almost think this was like a room when he was like a student or something. And I thought this piece, if you were going to lose one piece from the portfolio, lose this one, because it doesn't advertise any kind of games development skills. And it's also probably the weakest piece that he's done, because it's a little bit underlit, although you can actually you see how he's managed to get the camera so close in, and he's managed to focus on one little particular detail, and it's you can see the blur and the depth of field that he's used just across that little edge there. And then there you see he's managed to get another one here with the surface of the phone. But this is it's not, that's definitely geometry. I think it's just such a shallow angle keyboard that the keys appear textures. But you see, this is, oh yeah, and he did like a little soft render here, which I said I think that's too quick of a render. But yeah, he's done it. And also you can see at the top there he's got Pilot active with the camera actor, so he's not actually properly rendered it out. He's just sort of done it in the Unreal viewport. And then you see, this was another good shot here where he's taken a subject and he's placed it within the scene, and then he's set his camera properly. So these are all good examples. They see, and then he's done like a slow pass across it here. It's a simple scene because it's literally just a laptop on a table. in a not very well lit room. That's all it is. But he's managed to get an overall screenshot. He's got these close-up subject shots, all of which were good. He's got these kind of slow pass shots going by here, and then he's got like a general overview shot from some different angles, and then one of the entire room. I mean, that to me looks like an incomplete shot because there's no furniture. You'd need like a pictures on the wall or a background in there, and you can see his camera is slightly off at an angle, like it's tilted. When you're doing interior design photography, you should always do like these straightforward images and angles like this. So he's actually got quite a lot of mileage out of one very simple little scene. It's just that there's a little bit too much and it's a bit incomplete. Is what I said about that. His alien isolation environment, everybody makes one. See, this is good quality modeling. It's a little bit flat on the texturing. Like there's not a lot of details. There's a lot of very just kind of blank beige surfaces. And I think really he's just not used enough decals, because if you go and play Alien Isolation, there's all kinds of little signs and text and stuff, all kinds of all over the walls. And there's lots of these little CRT monitors mounted up in the ceiling recesses, which he hasn't quite got. But his lighting is generally good. It's nice and soft lighting. He's got a combination of soft area lighting with mixed with shadows, and then he's got particle effects. He's got good general details. He's got good texturing. This is a good complete environment piece. Like this is definitely above standard for what you would normally expect from a student. He's got flat angles. He's got 45-degree angles, and then he's got kind of natural forms with curves and whatnot built into it. And he's got a good color palette as well. He's got a muted gray with a bit of beige and a bit of green. Yeah, it's a good idea not to get carried away with trying to throw too many colors into your pictures. Just try and pick 3 colors. Pick like a base color, which in this case would be like either the beige or the gray. Then pick an accent color. Because his base color is like a dark gray black. His accent color is like this beigey, sort of a beigey green, and then his highlight color is this sort of lighter kind of monitor green that he's using. And then this is like all his overviews for. Did he do? Oh yeah, he did do a video of like exploring around inside the environment as well. So you see, he's showing his environment from lots of different ways. We've got like a whole little photography thing here where he's finding the most photogenic angles and taking it from that. Then we've got like an overview where he shows the whole thing of how it was constructed, all the different parts that it was made of. Then we've got some video here showing you walking around the environment, and we've got a few of those. I think possibly the only thing he hasn't done is show like a wireframe and a texture profile of like one of the particular props on one of the particular models. If I was him, I would have taken maybe like the phone on the wall, and I would have just shown like a wireframe screenshot of it and a screenshot of the texture, just to show how it was built. And then I think one of his because with his car model, he's kind of done the same thing that I've done, where he's got a pretty damn solid model. Like this is an elaborate model for like a 20-year-old student. This shows advanced modeling techniques, but he's got really awful banding on the gradient on the background. Like that's bad. You needed to have blurred that out. He's got no shadowing on the I think it's just the way he modeled it, because I think no, it's like a scoop that's been modeled into it. Yeah, because this is it's the taxi model from Cyberpunk 2077. And then see, he's done the exact same thing that I have, where he just has a model floating out in space. It's not grounded, it's got no context, and you can't sense, other than like looking at the reflections, you can't really sense where the light is coming from. So he could easily have doubled the quality of this by putting it like a shadow catching backdrop, putting a little bit of smoke and some spotlights on it, and then just giving it like a ground plane with some shadow and whatnot, and maybe picking some slightly sexier angles for the car, because you see, look how much wasted space there is around it. You see how much of a gap there is between the edge of the image and the bumper of the car, and then likewise from the top, that's a huge amount of of wasted space. So he needed to kind of bring the camera in a little bit. And I think as well, most of the shots he's taken, I suppose this is a pretty good shot. That one's a little bit too low angle to really work. A lot of the angles he's taken with the camera field of view too wide. And this is a very common beginning mistake that people make when they are taking renders, is they think like a gamer, because we as gamers, we think of we always think of like the human peripheral field of view, which is a roughly 90-degree field of view. The way human eyes actually work is because we have binocular eyes. We have two 90-degree fields of view, which means we have a bifocal forward focus of 45 degrees. And then we have like two peripheral cones of vision, which are both about 45 degrees. And then we have like a tiny little bit of peripheral vision, because the human field of view is like, what, 100 and... there's a thing you can do where if you kind of stretch your arms out in front of you and then you spread your hands out until you can no longer sense your hands in your field of view. And it's a little bit less than 180 degrees. It's about 175, 170 degrees. And there's a tiny little like 5 or 10 degree field of view you have at either side of your field of view, where you can't actually focus on details. All you can do is sense motion. This is why it's impossible to recreate human vision in like a first-person game, because you're only looking through a monocular rather than a binocular eye. But people have a habit of setting their camera to a 90-degree field of view because it most closely approximates the human field of view. It's like, no. You got to think like a photographer. Photographers typically use 55 to 35 fields of view on their camera lenses, because if you were to buy like a DSLR camera or something, typically the lens will zoom between 35 to 55. That's the standard range of zoom for a camera lens. And obviously, phone cameras don't do this. Phone cameras tend to have artificially high fields of view on them because they are meant for taking like selfies and stuff. Whereas because when you have a very wide field of view on a camera, you can fit a lot more stuff into the camera frame, but it zooms everything out. It pushes everything further away, where if you zoom the camera lens in, it narrows the field of view, but it brings everything closer and it flattens things out. You get less of an impression of depth, or you get less an impression of parallax as well as a distance between things. So if we look actually camera FOV, let's see if we can get... Yeah, you see how it works. So the 15 millimeter is a fisheye 180 lens, and then you get down to like a 50 millimeter lens, which has a 47-degree field of view. So yeah, like 55 to 35. That puts your subject range in here. We'll see what kind of... there'll be tons and tons of information on this that will show you how camera fields of view and how camera lenses work and how it changes the effect of stuff. So yeah, on something like a 14 millimeter, we'll see how close we can get. Actually, camera, we do camera. Yes.
When you're creating like a 3D environment, like say a room or whatever, do you want to have created every single asset and texture and everything? Or can you borrow like some things? Or
I think for the purposes of showing off how good of an artist you are, yes, you do want to build everything yourself. I know one question that certainly came up in interviews when I was younger is they would ask me, did you make all this stuff yourself? And I think if you try to if you take an existing model and you just like reframe it or retexture it or something, eventually someone's going to catch you out on that stuff. Somebody will spot that you've taken that model from somewhere else, and even if you've done a very good job like retexturing it or photographing it and stuff. I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with doing that just to practice. Just go on like Sketchfab and find a nice model, download it, stick it in Marmoset or stick it in Max, whatever it is, or in Unreal, and whatever you want to render with. And then just to get because like I was saying earlier, I beg, borrow and steal to get my projects up and off the ground. I just get whatever I need from wherever I need it, just so I can kind of flesh out the early details, because I don't like the early stages of projects when like nothing is established and you've got to spend forever building all the tiny details, and by the time you've gotten all the stuff you need, you've kind of run out of energy or interest for the project. I hate it when that happens. is. So I borrow as much stuff as I need to do just to get things up and going. But that's because I've reached a stage where I already know how to model everything. I can build whatever I want. It's just a matter of I don't want to have to spend the time doing it. I've got bigger things to focus on. But certainly for the purposes of your like graduate portfolio, yes, I think everything should be completely original or completely your own work. So that way it stands as being entirely exemplary of what you are, and also you're not giving yourself a false sense of being a better artist than you actually are. It's kind of like the difference with Unreal and Unity. Unreal always makes you look like a slightly better games artist than you are, whereas Unity makes you work harder to get better results.
Okay, thank you.
If that answers the question.
Yeah.
Because I almost have a feeling, actually, yeah, see, the King Toad Witcher concept, I almost think George didn't model this. I kind of think somebody else saw this and they were like, oh yeah, you can get this model from like somewhere online, and he's just done like a retexturing of it. I'm not entirely. Was it J Toad Substance? Yeah, maybe he did. Substance Peter sampler creation. Let's see what we can dig out. Oh no, actually no. Yeah, that is quite different, actually. So maybe it is an original model then. I'm not entirely sure. I suppose, yeah, we can No, that's way too loose a result. We'll never find it. So yes, when it comes to rendering your subjects, then yeah, definitely look into cameras and photography and understand photographic techniques. I wonder if I can go like that, and then yeah, because you can see the examples across the bottom of how zooming in with different fields of view, it flattens the image out, but it also gives you a much more focused view of your subject. Because if you have a great big, like a 90-degree field of view, like this one on 40 millimeters, like there's like, what is it like, what's that a photograph of? It's just a big open space. There's no subject, there's no focus, there's no kind of there's nothing to draw the eye to anything. And then by the time you get up here to like a 200 millimeter zoom, it's obviously focusing on the small building, and then all of the other smaller details surround it are getting cropped out. So that is the subject of the photograph. So that is a super reliable and super useful technique to be getting the hang of. And the other one that I look at is Abby Kernstein. She was my student protege before George. This was from like a year ago. And this was a good example of, she has a fair bit of variety in her portfolio. I mean, the aged wood here, like that, anybody could make that in Substance. That's pretty beginner. That's probably the weakest piece that she's got here. So if anything in here was going to be chucked out, that can go. The Fairbairn's fighting knife is, well, it's okay. I generally tell people, oh, this is a good idea as well, to have turntables of your model so you can show them off under lighting. There's lots of different. Yes, you should always show topography on the models. I mean, when you've got things like the Marmoset viewer, actually the Marmoset viewer doesn't have, unless this was just like a video she took with it, it probably was. If you've got the real-time Marmoset viewer, you can break the model down and view the different materials and whatnot, and the topology. But yes, you should always do like a wireframe breakdown and textural breakdown of your model. And this is one thing that I always get criticized for. The two main things I get criticized for in my portfolio, if we go back to it, is number one is I never show my working. I never show any kind of breakdowns of models. So even if we go into something like this, even though people see it and they say, yeah, that's a damn good model and it's a great texture and it's well photographed, you scroll all the way down and I never actually show my polygons or my textures to it. And even with something like this, where I did the motion tracker from Aliens, again, this would be a perfect model to show my textures and my wireframe polygons, but I haven't done. And the other thing I always get criticized for is my substance painted materials. I tend to just make a very, very good quality base model with a very good normal map. And then I just throw like well-made substance painted materials on top of it. I haven't done any kind of like hand painting work. I haven't put any decals or anything on this. I like all the scratches and the edgeware. That's just whatever the substance material thing. There's probably 3 or 4 different substance materials on this, but they're all completely generic ones that don't actually they're not actually conformed to the surfaces on this, and so that's what I always get. I always take some flack for. So really, what I need to do with this model is I need to go back and then I need to kind of paint out some of the edgeware in this, just where it wouldn't naturally be, or paint in some extra, or like have a secondary layer of edgeware on this, and just kind of paint it onto the corners and onto the rivets. And that kind of thing, and then clean up some of the areas in here where there wouldn't be natural edgeware, or where there wouldn't be any kind of friction against contact surfaces and stuff like this. So those are 2 important things that I think are essential to doing: is is do some hand painting work with substance materials. Don't just rely on the kind of the automated process of it. Don't let substance materials do all the work for you, and also show your working, show wireframe breakdowns and texture layouts, UV map layouts and whatnot of your models. I generally say stay away from like knives and swords, because it's quite difficult to make things like that look good, because they're just too simplistic of an object. It's also quite difficult to frame them as well, because they're very, very long, thin objects. It's difficult to do a good photography of them. I mean, these are not bad. These are pretty good. I think better than the initial thumbnail may have suggested. But this piece here, this was the rifle that Abby made. This is what got her the job. And even though you can kind of see how she's done the thing where she's done it against a black background, she hasn't put any kind of photographer's background behind it, but it is an exceptionally well-made model. Like, her materials and her texturing are extremely good. Her photographic angles are very, very good. She's got lots of small, subtle details. She's not just relying on like color toning and normal mapping details. Yeah, you can see where she's put in like some hand-drawn text. She's got unique fingerprints and dirt marks and stuff, which are localized on one part of the model but not on another. Very intense attention to detail with like the screw threading and this kind of thing. She's done a wireframe breakdown like this. You can see on this model here where she's done like an orthographic view, so it's kind of flattened the model down and it's all contextualized within the framing of the image. She's done the textural breakdown across the bottom that shows her UV map layout. The UV map is super tight. There's no wasted space in there. Yeah, that is a tight UV map. There is. Yeah, so that is so everything about this is as good as it can possibly be. She's got good photography, good rendering, a good model, good texturing, and she shows her working. So this is an A-star piece. That gets you the job. So if you can pull that off, because I remember the art manager who I was talking to, he was saying that like it was his job to go through all the student portfolios, and he said, yeah, if she didn't have that piece in the portfolio, he wouldn't have picked her. He would have just tossed the CV on the pile and just got on to the next person. So that is proof that yes, it will get you a job if you have one standout piece against the rest of your portfolio. And that is about everything I can realistically tell you. Really good chunk of it. You've still got to practice your techniques. And I'll be in my late 40s by then. Holy shit. I might even be in charge of a studio by that point. So hopefully, yeah, questions. Yeah, you can.
Oh. No, I was just muting the microphone because I thought someone was going to talk in the background.
I had no problem whatsoever. Mm. Yeah, basically. I mean, have a little bit of variety in your portfolio, but notice how all of these students that I've worked with, they have like 6 pieces in their portfolio. You know, 6 is enough. So you don't have to, because oh yeah, yeah. And so yeah, like have like a model, have an environment, have some kind of complex material or some kind of substance. Like I mean, Abby was very good at substance painter, which was unusual for somebody of her age, and so she was able to make this kind of stuff. And you know, it's like a minion meatball, isn't it? And then yeah, interesting enough, she did this piece as well. Like yeah, again, Alien Isolation, everybody does one. That game was such a huge influence on environment artists, but she actually did it as a substance designer material like this, so it's all using projectionary materials. And again, like she's got the turntable, she's got the screenshot, and she's got the 2 close-ups, so it's all nicely rendered, it's all shown up nice and close. So this is a good amount of variety of high quality stuff. So I mean, she was like 20, I think, when she made this stuff. So she was very young, and she was unusually good. I missed her when she left. She only stayed at Double 11 for about a year and like a year and 6 months or something like. She wasn't around all that long. And then the last one that I ever show is Molly and Whistle. Molly was hired at the junior level the same day that I started, and I thought out of Abby and George and yeah, I thought out of Abby and George and Molly. Molly had the weakest portfolio, but again, she's got a prop study. She's got some surface study. Yeah, yeah, oh yeah, that yeah. So she's got some good prop and also yeah, the coffee machine as well. So she's got some good prop studies. She's got some materials that she's done. Obviously not as good as Abby's, but they're still passable. And she's got a decent environment piece that she's done. And also she did this environment as an actual blog where she showed it from the very. I think it was the pub that she worked in at the time, which apparently we're not going to find out about because oh no, there we go. So yeah, Abby was hired. She had no prior experience in games development. She
Molly.
hadn't been part of any indie development scenes. I think she had just come straight out of university and she'd spent like a year working in a pub or working in an Amazon warehouse, just kind of typical student jobs basically. And the environment piece that she's done, this is pretty solid for, I think she was 21 or 22 when when she was hired at the job. And I can see a few minor errors in this. Like you can see the emissive on the lamps there are not quite right. And the sense of scale and proportion is a teeny bit off because everything feels...
There's something triggering me in this scene. I can't put my finger on it.
Yeah, it's a weird thing. What I often advise people to do is when you've taken your final renders of your models, is you put them as your desktop background on the computer. So that way, every time you start the computer up and you get to desktop, or every time you drop down the windows,
that's
I
some
advice. What the
advice.
hell I have?
That's some.
Oh yeah,
advice.
I've still got my old Terminator one here.
Yeah.
Is you put your render as your desktop background, so that way you're forced to look at it. And so every time you collapse a window down to the desktop, bing, it hits you right in the face. And everybody has like an immediate reaction. It takes like a second and a half to assess whether or not you like the image that you're looking at. And so you have to listen to that gut instinct that you have. And if you look at your image up on the big screen and you just think, nah, something's not right about it, there's just something incomplete or something's off, then you have to figure out what it is and you got to go back and change it. Whereas likewise, if you look at the render and you just think, yeah, I like it, I nailed it, then you know that image is finished. Everybody has that split-second gut instinct when looking at a piece of artwork, if they know whether or not they like it, and you have to trust and listen to it. And the only other advice thing I think I have as far as creating portfolio renders is if your shot looks better in black and white than it does in color, something's wrong with your color palette. Black and white, it shouldn't be used as a cheat to get around making things look better. By all means, do like some black and white photography if you can make it look really cool, but never use black and white as a substitute because it looks better than color. That just means you've done something wrong with your color palette. And also, you can look at actually color theory, not a color theory wheel, color theory in film.
No, you're
Maybe,
looking for
certainly
that.
like
You're looking for that contrast wheel where it shows complementary colors.
Yeah, there is a color theory like this where you're always meant to pick opposite colors to each other, and so this is why blue and orange are like you always get that kind of neon teal and orange combination, which was really popular in like video game cover box art for like 10 years. Like all the Battlefield and all the Call of Duty games, they all had the same box art for years and years. So yeah, do a little bit of research into color theory, and you'll find stuff that they see like it's just one, two, three, it's 5 colors. You've got a nice solid complete image. The colors all complement each other and it creates a complete picture. Yeah, same thing here. Like this is how you work with color palettes. Sometimes I even save images like this out that I really like, and I literally use like the Photoshop color dabber, and I sample the colors, and then I work them back into my marmoset scene. I think the only other example of that I picked up, I think literally last night, if I go into my cyberpunk image and then it's not in references, I keep it in images, because I found this vaping pen the other day that I thought was kind of cool. And then, oh yeah, here they are. Yeah, I looked at these and I thought, I like the color balances on these. They're all they've managed to come up with 8 of them, and each one only has like 3 colors on it, or sometimes only 2, and they're all quite complementary of each other's. I mean, they're designed to be quite garish and,
That one
quite strong.
reminds
But
me of the old Game and Watches almost.
yeah, I think they're meant to look like little NES controllers. Oh yeah, I think this one is literally called the NES because it's a nice kind of metallic red and gold finish to it. So pick 2 to 4 colors that work well together and base your image around that.
All right.
Think is
Well,
a good way of working.
It's 2 a.m. for you over there, James.
Yes, it is 2 a.m. to the minute.
I'm gonna tuck you in and send you to bed.
I'll be up for a little while. Yeah.
All right.
I had a good long nap earlier.
All right. Well, some of us, some of the students here are here on their own time, and some of them would like to get back to their regular class time as well and get some work done. So, we could do this for another 16 hours, I'm sure, but we should probably put an end to it here.
Until next time then.
Yeah, absolutely. We got Max coming up soon at some point, so maybe I'll give you a call for that if you're interested.
No problem. I'm always down for that.
Awesome. All right. Thanks for coming out, James. And let's see if we can get you a webcam. I think I have like 6 on the shelf doing nothing. I'll just send you one. And that'll be way more interesting. All right. Have a good night, my friend.
All right.
And thank you so much.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Have a good night.
For everything.
Good one.
Have a
Thank
good
you.
night.
All right. So before the rest of you guys all take off on me, so we got one more fun little visit. This one brand new. Never heard from this guy before. Never had him come. It was a student in my afternoon class who was like, yo, you should see if you can get him to come. So I did, and I did. So next Tuesday, because Monday's a holiday, yay. Tuesday we got Ryan Laley, YouTuber. He's got like 1,000 videos on YouTube on how to use Unreal Engine and almost just over 80,000 subscribers. So that should be pretty fun. He's just going to... I asked him, what's he going to do? What are you going to come here to do? How much time do you need? He's like, give me an hour, and I'm going to basically do how to get good at Unreal. So that should be interesting.
I'm pretty sure he's the guy Mike linked us for the inventory system, or the one Mike used.
Yep.
Yeah, he follows through my inventory system.
Yeah, he just posted, actually, 6 hours ago, the final of a quest system. He just did a demonstration of a quest system. Yeah, the guy
So
just pumps up
cool.
videos like crazy. So he's going to show everyone how to get good at Unreal, I guess. There you go. Even James has experience with. Ryan Laley has saved my ass with Unreal many, many times. He says. So I should invite James to come meet him, I guess, too. All right. If you belong to Mike, follow him back to his class. If you're part of my afternoon class, thanks again for coming. Although I think anyone from my afternoon class except for Camilla already bailed like wicked quick. James can go on. I hope you guys actually enjoyed James's visit, but I know James is like, when does this guy stop to breathe? Yeah.
Honestly, I could have listened for longer.
Yeah. No, I know, but yeah. James loves coming and sharing and like he could just go on forever. So, but yeah, that portfolio stuff I think was good stuff. Yeah, so let's get some work done for the rest of the period, and I'll see you all on Tuesday. All right. Thanks for coming, Mike.
Sounds good.
Later,
Yeah,
guys.
thanks for having us. See ya.
See ya.
See you Tuesday.
Good night, guys.
All right. It's so quiet and quaint now, huh? Jacob, what happened to you? Are you okay?
Yeah, I had to. I'm not sure if is it working?
Your camera's not
use,
working, but your mic is working, and you disappeared at some
Hang
point
on.
during that.
Yeah, I had to sign onto my phone. I sent you a message asking you for the Zoom link.
Oh, what did you?
It crashed. I live out in the woods, so internet just
I was
sucks on that computer.
actively looking for like maybe something happened. We do have a lot of rough weather coming for all of us here in Ontario the next week too, so I kind of suspect.
Yeah, it's been nasty.
Where did you send this message though? You emailed me, I'm guessing then.
Yeah, I emailed you on the Trillium messaging, I guess.
On the message. The TC Learn message.
Let me see if I can pull it up.
Okay. Yep, got it. All right, cool.
Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. I'll forgive it. I got the message. We all have these technical difficulties. It's fine.
About the weather, yeah, we're just getting your Toronto rain here in Kingston now.
My forecast has got like thunderstorms like all week. It looks like it's weird. Okay, so I mean it's just an hour left. I really just wanted to like. Dude's got so much information thrown. Like I love the guy, and he's super knowledgeable, and he's got lots of good information. I also feel like his stuff about the portfolios is a little bit. It makes you feel better, right? A little bit. Like you're all worried about what am I going to do with this when I'm done. And when he shows like these are 2 people I hired or 3 people that I hired, and this was their portfolios, right? So really, it's just. If you put hard work forward, it'll pay off. You don't need to have a portfolio that's 80 things deep. You just need to have like one quality piece on there, and it can be anything. My portfolio is mostly game design documents. Like it's just one sheets. In any case, yeah. So Jason, Jacob, I'll just leave you guys to just start reading. If you can keep your eyes open, because I mean those first 2 chapters, I think we'll all agree are, they're not horrible, but they're kind of meh. It's game history and things like that. So if you like trivia as much as I do, it'll be interesting. And if you're not a big trivia buff, then you're just going to be like, whatever. But you guys can get reading.
Get really dry at times.
What's that?
I'm just gonna read what I can online. Because I can, like I said, I can find volume 1 bits of it, and hopefully by like Wednesday, this lightning round of questionings.
Thursday?
You got to get me through it until I can get the book. Or is it Thursday is lightning round of questionings, or Thursday is the test?
We literally like help you guys. I've been putting this like the idea of this assault. We're just going to like pummel you guys, but no, it's going to be just like we're going to help you and review with you. The stuff that you read. If you think the test you're going to get through the quiz without reading the stuff, that's not going to work. Like, are you waiting for the book to come, or you haven't ordered it yet, or what's?
I haven't ordered it yet. I'm waiting for OSAP to come.
Okay.
Yeah, but like I said, I'm just going to be reading the volume 1. Hopefully, those chapters are pretty similar.
Oh, did you pick up that free version of the volume 1?
So yeah, there's a free version with chapters 1 through 4 in that, which is what I was.
You'll probably be okay.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, because from the horse's mouth, like the guy who wrote the book, we've spoken to him. The difference in volume 1 and 2 is volume 2 has the monetization section, which is like one of the last chapters. So. Okay. And as for the rest of you guys, just if you're under action plans, you still have Illustrator stuff to do, now's the time. If you don't have Illustrator stuff to do, just play around with Unreal for the rest of the period, make some mistakes, and then tomorrow we will start building some levels in Unreal Engine for real. Okay?
I have a digital copy of Level Up, and I'm sending it in the chat. It's taking a minute, but all you're gonna need is the extra stuff. You're gonna have to find those yourself or wait for your book to come in, but this will start you off, has all the same information. Don't rely on the page numbers though, because you get so messed up when you're studying.
That is super helpful. Thank you.
It'll just take a minute to come through, but once it does, just download it and it'll open it up in any of your PDF viewer tab kind of things. Anything you got?
Yeah, I scanned the first 4 chapters of my physical copy. I was going to try and find those and send those, but that works too.
Yeah, that works perfectly. I'll just go through that then instead of having to do it all online and then have things crashes.
Yeah, though the storm's right overhead for me right now, so it's taken as long as it wants.
Yeah, me and you both live in Kingston, so.
Both my dogs are curled up on the bed as close to each other as possible. They're very, very unhappy.
Yeah, my dog's not too bothered by this weather.
Oh, crap. I'm